Episode 117, It's a Dead End. Rose, do you still remember me? Lucille gave her an evil look. What do you want? Open the door. Rose frowned and tried her best to open the door, but it was locked. Rose believed that William Chase, the president of the New York Merchant Union, had helped her family solve a problem brought on by Lucille's family. This gave Rose a lot of confidence and fueled her strong attitude toward Lucille. Smack! Lucille slapped her in the face. He grabbed her chin, gritted his teeth, and said fiercely, Now you're pretending in front of me? Who do you think you are? Even if I throw you into the Hudson River, what can you do about it? He shook her fiercely. He twisted her neck to try to get away, which caused a trickle of blood to flow out from the corner of her mouth. Rose! Susan embraced her with a worried look. She had the awful feeling that he was going to do something bad to them. Aren't you afraid that William Chase will cause trouble for your family? Rose was already scared, but she couldn't act too cowardly now. Otherwise, he would get even cockier, which would cause some more problems for them. Rose only wanted to use the mention of President Chase to scare Lucille away. Lucille snorted. He looked at her casually. It seems like your family doesn't get along that well with William Chase. Oh, what do you mean? Rose asked in surprise. He shook his head and laughed. Even though his family had already apologized to Rose's family, William Chase did not let them go. During that time, Chase had put a lot of pressure on one of their corporations, causing them enormous problems. Chase had misunderstood Ken Stokes' meaning and had also attacked Rose's family's business. Seeing that their own decline could not be reversed, Donald Brennan, Lucille's father, made a prompt decision. He decided to withdraw the assets of the family business from New York and seek a new base elsewhere. Lucille laughed because he and his father had guessed that it was a coincidence that William Chase had saved Rose's family. Now, seeing Rose, it seemed like she didn't know anything about the situation when her family was attacked by William Chase. If Rose's family was so close to William Chase, wouldn't he tell them about such an important matter? This meant that their guess was correct. Why are you laughing? Rose was puzzled. Why did it feel like it was a joke when she mentioned William Chase? Cut the crap. Even if William Chase showed up here, what is there to be afraid of? Even though Lucille said this, he was still afraid of him. But his father had already decided to leave New York. So how could the head of the New York's Merchant Union still do anything to them? Give me back my phone. I'll call my dad right now and ask him to find Mr. Chase to seal your accounts. Rose still had not figured out the situation. Lucille slapped her again. He showed no mercy at all. She was being beaten until she fell back on her seat. Susan hurriedly helped her up. Stupid girl, speak one more time and I'll kill you right now. Lucille scolded her harshly. This time Rose didn't dare say a word. Susan also felt a great sense of danger. She felt like she was destined to die. Huff! Seeing that Rose had become humble, Lucille revealed a proud smile. His eyes didn't hide anything as he looked at them a few times. Then he turned around and started his car. Hey, hello, Rose? Alex said loudly into the phone, but it was already beeping with busy signal. Lucille. Alex couldn't help but frown. If Rose and Susan fell into Lucille's hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. He went to the surveillance room that watched over the night market and asked to see their surveillance footage. When the people on duty heard that his friends had gone missing, they played the footage from when the incident occurred. Alex saw the whole picture. He was shocked to see that the blind man who Rose and Susan had helped was the same person he had collided with earlier. This was obviously what Lucille had planned. It became clear that his motive for doing this wasn't simple. If Alex didn't rescue them as soon as possible, the result would be extremely bad. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Alex came out of the surveillance room and called Ken Stokes. Ken was the most effective and quickest way to deal with the situation. "Alex, you don't have to be so anxious. I'll call Donald Brennan right now. He definitely won't dare touch your friends," Ken said, which helped to calm Alex. "All right." Since Ken had said so, it meant that it wasn't going to be a big problem. He would definitely be able to resolve it properly. Alex calmed down a bit, and he hung up the phone. Less than 10 minutes later, Ken called him back. "Sir, I couldn't get through to Donald Brennan's phone, but I found out that he wants to transfer all his assets to other places. Last time we used William Chase of the New York Merchant Union to warn him, and from the looks of it, his actions during that period of time were very abnormal. It's very likely that he's venting his anger and taking revenge out on Rose before he leaves New York," Ken said as his tone became heavier. "Are you in New York now? I'll go to your place." Hearing Ken's uncertainty, Alex felt a pang in his heart, so he wanted to meet with him. After all, Joe had asked him to take care of Susan and Rose that evening. "Yes, I'll send someone to pick you up right now. I'll do my best to search for the location of your friends," said Ken. 20 minutes later, a black Maserati Levant stopped in front of Alex. He got in and went to meet Ken. At the same time, Lucille had already arrived at a small hotel on the outskirts of New York City. Lucille stopped the car, got out, opened the door, and pulled Rose out. He tied her wrists with a rope and then pulled out Susan. He also tied her wrists and slammed the door shut. The owner of the hotel was a familiar face to his family. He had already greeted them. So even if others saw him, who would dare to interfere? "Get in." Lucille pushed the two girls into a room. Rose and Susan fell onto the floor as he closed the door. Susan and Rose stood up and saw an old man in the room who looked just like Lucille, but 30 years older. "Dad, I did well today. I went to get Rose, but I didn't expect to get another one. She's not bad looking." Lucille walked over to his father, Donald, and looked at the two girls with a smile. "That's great. When we get tired of one, we can swap. That's more fun." Donald scratched his chin. Both father and son exchanged lewd looks. At that moment, Donald no longer looked like a respectable businessman. Seeing the father and son pair, Rose and Susan were terrified. They hid in a corner of the room like a couple of frightened mice. "Help! Someone save us!" Susan shouted at the top of her lungs, followed by Rose. "Bitch, call out again!" Lucille impulsively walked in front of the two of them, slapped Rose, and then hit Susan, which stopped them from shouting. "Son, why did you hit them? Let them scream." Donald was actually smiling. He sat leisurely on the bed and smoked his cigarette. He looked at the two girls who were both looking back at him with anger and fear. "You think that just because you shout for help, someone will save you? If that were the case, I'd just book a room in the city center. Why bother coming all the way out here? Let me tell you, if I opened the door and let others see you shouting in the room, they wouldn't dare do anything. Do you believe me?" Donald didn't seem to be worried at all. Susan and Rose's hearts sank into despair. Rose's legs went limp, and she almost fainted. Donald chuckled. He looked at Lucille and said, "Don't just stand there. Go take a shower. Let's get started." Lucille looked at his father with an evil smile and walked into the bathroom. They could hear him turn on the shower and the sound of water flowing. What are you trying to do?" Susan asked with a trembling voice. "Huh?" Donald revealed a surprised expression and then asked back, "Men and women in the same room? What do you think we're doing, playing a board game?" Susan's mind went blank as her entire body went limp. Rose's heart was beating fast like it was a countdown for her life. The sound of flowing water stopped. Susan and Rose's hearts missed a beat. Lucille came out while wiping his wet hair with a towel wrapped around his lower body. There were droplets of water on his firm muscles. Donald also started to take off his clothes. "No, I beg of you, please don't," Rose cried. She knelt on the ground and begged Lucille, "Please let me go. I was wrong before. I won't dare do anything. Let me go." "Let us go. We can compensate you in another way. This is against the law." Although she knew it wouldn't work, Susan also begged them. Now that I know you're regretting it, do you remember how you insulted me in front of everyone in the Angel Bar? I swore in my heart that I would get you back for that humiliation." With that, Lucille threw the towel on the ground and walked over to Rose. Don't! Rose tried to back away while pleading, but a wall was behind her. Lucille grabbed her chin with his right hand. He leaned her forcefully against the wall and breathed in her smell. He inched closer and closer to her face as a trace of an evil smile appeared. Rose closed her eyes in fright. She had become a victim. Just when Donald was about to walk toward Susan, the room phone rang. Ring, 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 ring. Donald glanced at the phone in confusion. He had already told the hotel owner that he was going to be busy that night, so the hotel owner definitely wouldn't call him. Even if they had something to talk to him about, they would have just knocked on the door. Who would be calling now? This phone can only connect with the internal hotel line, he thought. Donald finally walked over to the phone and gently picked it up without saying a word. The other party on the phone spoke. "I'm Ken Stokes. No matter what you're doing to Miss Susan, stop now."